Hello, good people of the internet. My name is Rory Schneider, and I'm going to show you some of the basics of longboarding today. So for my board setup, I've got a Rain Demon Seed. It's like one of the newer models from like 2017. It's about 44 inches if I remember right. It's a drop deck. So you can see that the deck itself is dropped about an inch, and then the trucks are dropped through, which just gets you a little bit lower to the ground. I got some new Randall 2 180 trucks, which is like classic longboard trucks, and some sweet ABEC 11 gumballs. I don't even think they make these anymore. These are 76 millimeter 81A, so they're on the softer side, I think, for grip. And then I left it ungripped because unless you're getting super gnarly, you really don't need grip on your board, which is kind of a new concept to me. But a friend of mine who passed away had a board that wasn't gripped, and so I decided to kind of do it in his memory and just keep it like super simple and clean and chill. And it's a lot more comfortable if you end up riding barefoot. I typically like to ride in some gnarly shredded Vans. They're probably the best shoes for this sort of thing, but you can ride in whatever. I ride in flip-flops a lot, and sometimes I ride barefoot. It just depends what you're into, but for starting out, you probably want to use like some closed-toed shoes with a smooth sole at the very least. So the basics of longboarding, first of all, you're going to want to figure out what stance you are. That's super important, whether you ride regular or goofy. Regular, left foot forward like so. Goofy, right foot forward. And then you typically push with your back foot. So I ride regular, so I push like so. You push this way. If you're goofy, the first thing that you need to learn when you're longboarding is how to push. And so you want to go to a nice flat, smooth path, like this one. So I'm in Rapid City, South Dakota, and we've got some epic paths that run along Rapid Creek, which is flowing like crazy right now, and those are the girls taking a dip. So contrary to your intuition, probably you want to ride downhill, but when you're learning, it's a lot easier to push uphill. So since I'm pretending to be a beginner right now for a demonstration, I'm going to be riding uphill. So first thing you're going to do is get your foot planted in the correct position. You don't want to be perfectly straight right in the center. You don't want to be like 45 degrees or 90 for this. You want to start out like 30 degrees, and you want to be on the front, directly in the front half of your board. So the halfway mark would be here. It's going to be right center in the front. Turn your foot just like so. Joke, shut up. Mongrel. So keeping your foot slightly off center like so allows you to push with your heel and with your toe as needed in order to steer, because there's going to be a lot of situations where you'll want to steer a little bit while you're pushing, and so having your foot cocked to the side like that is going to help you out a lot. So one of the reasons you're going to want to start by pushing uphill is because you don't want to be going downhill because you'll get too fast, too quick, and it's easier to cruise downhill, obviously, but for the sake of learning, you really want to push uphill because the resistance of the hill is going to continuously slow you down, and it's going to make pushing a little more difficult technically, but it'll actually be easier to learn how to push. So when you're first starting to push, again, get your foot in the correct spot and just take as small a steps as you need to. You really don't have to stay off the ground for very long at a time. So once you get the hang of pushing, you'll be able to balance on your forward foot or your hind foot if you're riding mongrel for a lot longer periods of time. So if I pick up a little speed here, it's like I don't even have to set my foot down in between pushes. But that's going to require a whole lot of balance. And so just start off by doing really small pushes like this. You could do this all day. Jude's trying to bite me like a healer. Once you get a little speed, just plant your feet on the board. You want to maintain this stance right here where your front foot is in the position that I showed you before. Your back foot is going to be almost straight across the board like so, because your back foot is really going to give you your turn. Your front foot is just there to balance you on the board, and you can use it a little bit, but it's not near as effective as your hind foot because your hind foot is going directly across the board. So if I lean on my toes, I'm going right. If I lean on my heel, I'm going left. So your back foot does a lot more of the work for steering once you're going. Okay, the next thing you really need to learn and practice, probably, it might be the most important thing next to pushing, is stopping. A lot of people hardly ever learn how to stop, and it's a shame, because one of the things about longboarding that is always a huge factor is style. It's fun, you're going fast, you're flowing, but you want to look stylish. You don't want to look like a square, because that's just part of like skateboarding 101. Like, there's style infused into every aspect of it, and that's what makes it a great sport for expressing yourself out with your crew. Today happens to be my 2 healer dogs, but hopefully for you guys it's some friends or some good tunes. If you're starting out learning how to foot brake, you want to get just a little bit of speed going, nothing too crazy. And basically what you do, a little more speed. Basically what you do is drop your hind foot off the board, and you want to drop it nice and flat and gently, just like this. Okay, so one helpful tip when you're first starting to foot brake is you can actually touch your ankle to the side of your board, and that's going to help give you a little support. So we'll go just like this. So I'm actually touching my ankle to the side of my board. It just gives you a little more balance so you're not wiggling all over the place. So again, get a little speed going. Now, if you want a real gentle brake, you can use kind of the ball of your foot. So you can just go sort of like that. Ugh, crack. But generally, you'll want to place your foot as flat as possible. One reason for that is it gives you a nice, smooth, steady surface. Like, it's less likely to catch on a crack or anything if you just put your foot nice and flat like that. And also for wearing down your shoes. If you use just your toe or just your heel, it's going to wear down your shoes way faster. But if you brake with a nice flat foot, it really, I mean, you can do a lot of foot braking, and it really wears down your shoes very little. I mean, these Vans are like completely destroyed. You can see the toe is almost about to wear through, and so is the heel. But that's because I've been riding in these shoes for a couple years. So if you got reasonably new shoes and you're not riding a ton, you can foot brake a lot before it wears down. In fact, I'll compare to my other shoe, which I never foot brake with. So you can see that it's still got quite a bit of tread. So it's going to take a toll on your shoes, but it's pretty negligible. By the time you longboard and foot brake enough to tear through the sole of your right shoe, in my case, your shoes are going to be pretty much shredded from use anyway. So it's not going to really take that much of a toll on your shoes. But in any case, to prevent excessive wear, definitely keep your foot nice and flat like so. All right, let's get a little speed going. We'll have a nice cruise here. So my right foot is almost straight across the back, but not quite. Once I got a little speed, it felt more comfortable to keep my foot angled just a little bit, my back foot, a little more balance. Front foot is just like so. One stance that's really comfy once you get your balance is you'll end up keeping your feet pretty close together like this. And it's just kind of a fun, chill way to stand on your board. I don't know if it looks that cool or not, but it feels real stylish. And it feels real comfortable too. And it's kind of, your foot will just naturally snap to that position. You got like a big stretch of board behind you that you're not really using. It's kind of like you're surfing on a longboard. You know, you're like riding the nose. You got this whole board behind you, but you're just chilling up front. So another concept about beginner longboarding that you're going to want to learn early on is, I'm going to call it your maximum speed threshold. That's basically like your point of no return. So right now I'm riding upstream, and so I have to keep pushing to get any sort of speed. But if you're going downhill, you're going to reach a point where you're going too fast to bail. Even right now at this pace, if I need to, I can just ditch it in the grass. and you can hop off your board. So your maximum speed threshold is like the maximum speed at which you can still bail. So as a beginner, what you're never gonna wanna do is go down a hill faster than the speed where you can either foot brake to bring yourself down to a safe, controllable speed, or you can bail. Because once you get past that foot brake speed, like the maximum speed at which you feel comfortable taking your foot off the board and braking, you're gonna end up either having to commit to the entire stretch of hill that you're on and just ride it out until you can slow down, or until you slow down enough naturally to be able to foot brake. You're either gonna have to do that or you're gonna have to bail. And if you're going too fast to jump off and stay on your feet, you're gonna end up flying through the air like Superman, landing on the cement and getting all scraped up, which is probably gonna happen anyway somewhere along your journey, and you really shouldn't be afraid of that, because you're not a true longboarder until you've had a few scrapes, but it's gonna hurt like hell, and so want to be careful, trying to avoid it as much as possible. I can practically count on one hand still the number of wipeouts I've had over the years that were pretty bad. Like, I remember in Alameda, California, I hit an acorn and I was on just a sidewalk like this, but I was going pretty good. I was pushing pretty fast, and I just flew through the air, landed Superman style on my chest and slid. My back feet like curled up over my head. I just laid there in a pile. And another time in Beulah, North Dakota, when I was growing up, I hit a big crack that my whole truck and wheels dropped down into, and same thing. So you're gonna have some falls like that, but if you ride safe and you follow some of my tips, they're gonna be few and far between. All right, so now, if you practice going uphill enough that you're pretty comfortable pushing and then standing on your board, then it's time to get a little speed. So right now, me and the doggies are going downstream, and so it's pretty easy to push. So this is a good time to keep practicing your foot braking. So we're cruising along, step off, slow down just like that, back on the board. Now when you're pushing, you want to watch out for big cracks like that. Always try and have 2 feet on the board for a big crack. And you can widen your stance like this. When you widen your stance, it's going to give you a lot more stability for hitting big cracks. So if you see a crack coming up, widen your stance like that, hit the crack, and then get back in your normal pushing position. So you're going to want to be balanced over your front leg when you're pushing. You want to get to a point where you could pretty much ride like this, where you're just balanced. So I'm leaning forward, bending down just a little bit. Once you get that balance, then you can really develop a lot more speed, because you can really reach forward with your foot and slap it down. And a nice big smooth push like that. So once you're comfortable getting a little speed going and pushing pretty hard, get in your stance like so, and you can start to carve. So when you're in your your cruising carving stance, for me, I want my left foot to be a little bit towards the heel side. My heel's sticking off the board just a little bit, and my right foot, my back foot, I got my toes sticking off a little bit, because when I steer to the left, I'm going to use my front foot a lot more, and when I steer to the right, I'm going to use my hind foot a lot more. So here's what it's going to look like. Get. Here's the fun section to get some speed through. My red dog is crazy. left heel, right toe, left heel, right toe, left heel, get, right toe. And you want to try and stay almost perfectly like up and down on your board, like balanced in between your trucks and wheels as you're carving. You have to lean a little bit forward and a little bit backwards, obviously, but don't get too crazy. Archie, come on. All right, so another thing I can talk about is getting low on your board. There's really only one reason to get low on your board, and that's if you're going through a section with kind of a tight turn, like up here. So I'm gonna get a lot of speed going. And I might get low like this as I'm going through the turn. So when you're turning, getting low like that can offer like a little bit more control. Here, there's a nice tight turn up here. I'll demonstrate. Heel. Okay, so I'm going left, back side, real sharp turn. Get low like this. So you want to get low like that for turning. It's fun, it's stylish, and it's effective. You can do the same thing front side. So for me, that was a backside turn. I'll just do it real slow this time. Front side, like this. So once you start picking up speed and like looking for specific turns to hit on purpose, just for the purpose of trying to turn really fast and maybe slide a little bit, you're gonna want to start sliding, for me, to my left, backside. If you're goofy, you go to the right. But backside is way, way, way easier. Trust me. So here's another turn right here. Backside. Just like that. It's easier to go backside just because you're, I don't know, it's same thing with snowboarding. You're on your heels. It's just a little more stable than if you're going toe side. We can go back and do the same thing the other way. But if you're gonna slide a little bit, which is gonna start to happen as you ride more and faster, and sliding backside is way, way easier than sliding front side. I can longboard pretty well, and I still struggle when I'm going on a right-hand turn and there's the chance to slide a little bit. It's like, whoo, it gets sketchy because it's harder to keep your balance when you're on your toes for some reason. Whereby if you're going backside, I'll try and slide this turn up here, and I'll show you how that works. I get a little speed. This could get messy. There, you can hear my wheels breaking loose just a tiny bit. So that was just a little bit of sliding backside. But to do that front side is a lot more difficult. So when you're practicing taking turns and you're building speed, definitely want to go backside if you think you might slide a little bit. So sometimes when people are riding and they're just cruising pretty fast, they'll have a tendency to get low like this, and they think it gives them more balance. So like, oh man, I'm almost going too fast, so I got to get low. That's like super counterintuitive. When you get low like this, it lowers your center of gravity, and you're actually a lot more likely to wobble, especially if you're going quick. You're more likely to get speed wobbles and have a wipeout. So if you get to a point where you're cruising along and you're starting to reach that maximum speed, like for instance, if you're a new longboarder and you're going this fast right here, you're gonna be like, oh man, this is almost too fast for me to be able to like step off my board and foot brake, and you got a hill coming up. You either bail or you commit. And if you commit and you start going uncomfortably fast, you're gonna wanna just kind of get in your bomber stance, which you'll turn your right foot a little more perpendicular to the board. Same thing with your hind foot. Spread out and bend your knees and just try and stay about like so. And just ride it out until you slow down enough to be able to bail, or when you slow down enough to where you feel comfortable stepping off your board and foot braking to a stop. So another important reason why you really need to practice your foot braking a lot is because, like right now, I'm on a path with me and the doggies, and there's not very many people around. But a lot of times you'll find yourself skateboarding on a street somewhere and there's like hella people walking around. Rather than have to like stop like that to get off your board or whatever. It's so much cooler if you can just either slide like that and kind of slow down to a pace where you're just almost at a walking pace next to everybody else. So you're not gonna run into someone. If they move in front of you, you could stop really quick. You're not gonna hit anyone, because it's kind of uncool to go too fast down a path where there's people, because people are crazy. Someone will step in front of you, have a bad wreck. It's real embarrassing. I've had a couple close calls where I've like almost hit little kids and stuff back when I was more of a punker and I just thought the world was mine and I could just shred like crazy. But it's a little more kinder to just slow down and ease up when there's a lot of people around. But so another way to foot brake in a scenario like that, if you're going through a crowd, because like it'll kind of open up, you'll be able to go a little faster, and it's like, oh, there's people. You just drop your toe like that, and it'll slow you down. And then you can just creep along in between the people. And then when it opens up, you can speed up a little more. Here. That's just the toe brake, like that. But that's definitely going to wear your shoes down more uneven than if you're foot braking like so. So that's it, guys. That's your basics. Those tips I gave you will take you a super long way in boarding. So get yourself a decent board or a busted ass board that you're borrowing, or just get a board, get on it, start pushing. If the wheels are hard and crusty and the bearings suck, it's all good. Sometimes it's easier to push if your bearings and wheels aren't that great. So just get on and go ride. Super healthy activity. It's good for your brain, it's good for your body. It's good to get your animal friends out if you got them. So yeah, just remember, biggest thing, figure out which way is most comfortable to stand on the board. Regular, goofy. But yeah, just remember those basics. Get your stance. Find out which way you like to push. Find a good path. Even if you have to drive somewhere, like if your neighborhood sidewalk is not that good or it's a little bit too steep or whatever, just go drive somewhere or take the bus or whatever you got to do. Get a ride to a place where the path is really suitable for starting out as a beginner. Because you're just gonna have a lot more fun. It'll probably be safer if the path is, you know, nice and smooth and whatnot. This path has some cracks on it, but they're really not that bad at all, especially with these big wheels. So go somewhere that has the right steepness. Like this path along the creek is practically flat. And so it's a great spot to learn because we can go upstream and there's a little bit of resistance, and you go downstream, you can cruise a little more. But find a good place to ride, get your stance down like this, and then just start pushing. Just push all day. When I was early on, when I was riding all the time, I used to live in the Bay Area in California, and I would take the train into San Francisco, and I'd get off on like Market Street, so like, you know, eastern side of the peninsula, downtown, and I'd skate all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and then like take a bus back or something. And some of my funnest memories are just getting out, cruising on my board, checking out the sights and sounds, and taking pictures, and it's just it's a healthy activity. But make sure you ride safe, you know. If you're just practicing basics, just learn it. You really don't need like elbow pads and slider gloves, and I mean, you really don't need a helmet if you're not going very fast. Now, I'm all about using protection when you start to get a little better and you're going a little faster and stuff, because it's definitely a dangerous sport, or can be, if you push hard. But for now, just have fun, man. Just get out there and ride. Alright, that's it for me. Later. So if you guys want more videos like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Post in the comments below. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, and what you want to see. I can show you a lot more stuff about longboarding for beginners, or if you're going to kick it up a notch, I can show you some more tricks and tips for a little bit more advanced riders. I'm certainly not a pro by any means, but I can get down the path pretty good. So until next time, later.